Let's just go down the rabbit hole here for a second. Let's just assume this is some sort of adversarial or foreign technology.
Most of the more than 120 incidents over the past 2 decades are not from the U.S. military or other advanced U.S. government technology.
It's right in front of me, it just disappears. Like gone.
To be clear, he's referring to this giant object as a Tic Tac instead of a shaped like one.
We're in, that we don't know what these things are, and they might even be extraterrestrial. That's worse.
Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. Blake Cousins here. We've got a special episode today. A Terror in the Sky. It's been talked about recently on Joe Rogan, Michio Kaku. We've got the director behind the film that's kind of groundbreaking at the moment, Caroline Corey, along with a radar specialist who was aboard the USS Princeton, Kevin Day. So let's just get into it. Let's bring them in, and we're going to be sharing with you exclusive clips of the film, the trailer, and behind the scenes of what really happened during the filmmaking of this unprecedented documentary. We've got Caroline Corey and Kevin Day with us. Appreciate you guys all joining us. How you guys doing today?
Hey, Blake. Thanks so much for having us.
I agree. Thank you. It's my honor and pleasure to be here, you guys.
It's good to be with you guys. And let me tell you, let's just start off with a quick clip from A Terror in the Sky, and we're going to get into it. But let's just roll this right now. Take a look.
On the USS Princeton, I was responsible for classified material, top secret data recording. In November in 2004, we were doing workups in preparation for our next deployment.
I was on the USS Princeton. I was the leading operations specialist, and basically we control the radars, we man the radars, we fight the ship if we ever go to combat. My primary job was to identify everything that flew in the sky. On November 10th, I started to notice some really strange contacts off the coast of Catalina.
During those workups, we tracked unknown aircraft for several days.
This is the contacts here at 28,000 feet going south about 100 knots, and I'm thinking to myself, I'd never seen anything fly like that. I had 15 and a half years actual sea time sitting behind that radar. At one point, it was raining UFOs. I'd never seen anything fly like this, and all the other ships are tracking it too. Fast Eagle flight happened to be airborne. Commander Fravor, the first one to launch off the Nimitz aircraft carrier. These objects fell out. These things went straight back up to 28,000 feet again in less than a second. And then at the very end, it was right in front of him. Disappeared.
They exhibited flight capabilities that were well beyond anything that I'd ever seen before. So I'm pretty familiar with just about the fastest things in the sky, and these things kind of made them look like they're toys.
So there it is, an exclusive clip from the film A Terror in the Sky. Caroline, Corey, appreciate you joining us again right here at Third Phase of Moon. We're going to get to Kevin in just a second. We've got some questions for him in regards to this incident, but when you were reporting on this and you're hearing Kevin starting to explain this incident aboard the USS Princeton, what was going through your head when you're hearing it from somebody that was actually there, military personnel?
Yeah, it was quite amazing. I have to say, though, as a filmmaker, in the beginning, I actually didn't want to cover the incident, the details, and the story, because it has been covered so much by, the media and also in the UFO world. But when I was in pre-production and I met Kevin Day and we started talking, he touched me so much. His story, the way he told it and how much it affected him, and hearing it from him with all these details, I said, oh my God, I have to include this, because that's what triggered so many other things afterwards. So that's the reason why I was very, very touched. And it ended up being an extraordinary thing with the film, because the human story was weaved in the discovery, the expedition. And then at the end, when we have those amazing sightings of similar objects, I felt like their story came full circle through the movie. So that's kind of how it happened.
It's interesting, Kevin. Thanks for joining us right here at Third Phase Moon. I know you've been through a lot of pressure, a lot of weight on your shoulders, especially the day of November 10th when all this went down. And it's interesting because when this incident happened, and these Tic Tacs, as we call them, hundreds of them raining down, as you say. It's interesting that within, 12 hours, we have an intelligence agency coming in to confiscate the data. Where was this data taken to, if you could tell us? And was this intelligence agency the CIA?
That is a very good question. It's a question that's I've long asked myself. From what I heard from the contacts and the friends I had on the USS Nimitz, they initially went there first, and imagine the data initially went back to the carrier, and then they flew off. So who knows where it went? Back to the beach somewhere.
So within 12 hours or so, right, when they came in and confiscated the data, it seems that this has happened before. If we go back in time to 1958, during the Roosevelt encounter, the Franklin D. Roosevelt. In 1958, there was this mass sighting of this large craft, and again, within a couple hours, the CIA was there that confiscated the data. And so it seems like history is kind of repeating itself over again. But my question to you, Kevin, is: does it make you think, if they were so prepared to board the ship and confiscate the data, that they were actually maybe conducting their own exercise because they were there so quickly, they kind of knew exactly what was going on, and maybe this was a blue on blue kind of exercise?
I have to tell you, I would be shocked if that was the case, and I have to tell you why. When we do exercises, we simulate a real high degree of realism. Good guys, us, versus notional bad guys, them. And we're briefed, and it's rebriefed, and there's so much that goes into this. Now, for some other agency to come in and put another exercise on top of what we're doing, number one, it's a huge safety violation. I mean, it just screams safety violation. I mean, what if we would have ran into one of those things? We didn't know it was seemingly impossible at the time. As far as I knew, it was a flight safety thing, and that's the entire reason why I got permission from Captain Smith to intercept the damn things. Because I said, Captain Smith, we didn't have any. For the first 3 days we were tracking them, we didn't have any aircraft on board, but they were going through our airspace, 28,000 feet, 100 knots, all disappearing on radar out off of Guadalupe Island. You got to remember, we're floating all over the ocean, but they still disappeared all in the same spot. It was amazing, and it was several days, and if I counted up the number of days we were tracked these things, it was about 100, like he had said, but it was in groups of 5 to 10 at a time. And they weren't hurting us. They were on our data links. Every ship was tracking them, and it was reported back to the beach. They weren't in the NOTAMs. Notice they were mariners would give us a heads up. If it was another exercise, they didn't publish it in the NOTAMs. And finally, the Air Wing came on board, and we were going to do an air defense exercise. Been briefed for months. Cap Smith comes down to combat. I said, "Hey, sir, we've been tracking these things, and I have no idea what they are, and I'm very, very concerned about safety of flight. I do not want to run into one of these things, because if we do, someone's going to ask you and me, sir, why we were so damning curious about these." He's like, "You're right, so your chief, intercept and VID, visual ID it," and the rest is history.
Incredible. Do you think, again, it's just amazing to me that they're just so fast to confiscate this data that seems to maybe, just curious, what's your thought process and why they actually came in to take the data? What are they afraid of? Because we're missing a lot of this data of what you're actually saying, tracking these things, moving from one point to another in an amount of time that kind of defies physics. Is this what they're afraid of? Why are they confiscating this?
That is such a huge question, and man, I can't even tell you how long I've pondered the why. But just to provide a little context, my job as an operations specialist, when any type of operational message, we are the folks that draft the message, and our people route it through the chain of command, and the captain signs it off and releases it. Well, the next morning I come up to Combat Information Center, or CIC, and I was going to write an after action report based on what happened. I mean, standard procedure. And that's the moment I found out the data was gone. The next morning, I was shocked, because in all my time on ships, that was a very first for me. It broke every rule in the book. So your question is valid. I have no idea. And remind me of the second part of it again.
Well, again, during the 1958 Franklin D. Roosevelt incident, when they came in and confiscated those files and the data, their reason is because they were suspecting that there was illegal gambling. You know, the mates were playing cards or rolling dice. Was there any reason given that you're aware of why they came in to confiscate the data? There's
zero. The question that's unanswered to this day is at least to me and others that were involved in it, as far as I know.
It just seems suspicious that, you know, they're admitting that there's a UFO phenomenon, but then they're covering up the data that could really actually back it up. And I think we really need to get to the bottom of this. Let's take another quick look at this incredible documentary of this effort to capture the UAP phenomenon.
The next morning I get up, I said, what the heck, I'm gonna write a very detailed message about what happened. I went back up to Combat Information Center, CIC, and one of the lead technicians, he looks at me and says, Senior Chief, the data isn't on the ship anymore. I said, what are you talking about? He said, somebody came on board our ship and they took our data. In fact, they made us erase everything down in the computer room. Even blank tapes had gotten erased.
We had our data recording for all of our equipment taken off the ship. And on top of that, you know, we were ordered to erase everything that was left in the shop.
And for them to take it, it was highly unusual. I raised my hand and said, I think we got a safety issue here. And I would try to describe what happened, and I got laughed at. I got ridiculed. There was jokes posted, there was cartoons posted about me. And I got so frustrated that it ended my career.
Some of my shipmates lost careers, lost wives, lost, you know, the ability to be able to see their children. You know, these are all the consequences of these events that happened that we're told to not talk about.
And it was really scary. It was really lonely. And at one point I didn't know what I was gonna do. I had gone through all this pain and suffering, if you will.
You know, it's tough when you're experiencing this. You see the data and it's right there, and then if all we could do is get this data to vindicate your story, Kevin, it would be a different world that we're living in right now, I believe. Caroline, when you're filming this and this emotion from Kevin Day's coming on, what's going through your thought process? And again, what do you think of this confiscation of this evidence?
Yeah, in terms of the filming, like I said, I already knew his story, but the way he said it on camera, I was like, yes! He was really being himself, expressing his true emotions. You don't get that, you know, very often in documentaries, you know, because you're supposed to be just delivering the facts. And he was just being himself. So I was ecstatic that his story was coming out in this authentic way, you know. But then in terms of, yeah, I think it's very, very strange that they would show up so quickly. By the next day, the files are not only confiscated, but even blank tapes erased. That doesn't even make sense. So there's got to be some sort of, like, this is my personal opinion, I don't have any proof or anything. There's got to be some sort of cover up of some sort. If they were responsible for the whole thing, I don't know, but it feels that they're definitely tried to kind of put a lid on the whole situation for their own purpose, whatever agenda that may be.
Yeah, it's interesting because they're so fast to confiscate. Either they're talking with or in cooperation with these entities, knowing where they're going to be to confiscate, or they're just so quick to get there. I don't know. It just seems to me that there's some kind of collaboration between the Tic Tacs and the people that are confiscating it. So therefore, they're getting the same information. I'm not sure if it's a foreign entity, then it wouldn't be. We're not going to be talking to a foreign military. But if it's within our own assets, like a private corporation, blue on blue, not necessarily military on military.
Also, I don't know if he's told that story before, because I remember I knew the story, and I remember being surprised when I heard that they actually confiscated the files and also were told to erase the blank tape. So I don't know if that story was told anywhere else. I don't remember hearing it. So I was ecstatic to really hear that as we were filming. Yeah, the implications of that are quite maybe disturbing, I would say.
You know, there's absolutely something going on. The eyewitnesses, the data, unfortunately, we don't have access to the data, obviously, confiscated, and they're hiding something. But what's your gut feeling, Kevin? Can you rule out 100% that this isn't terrestrial before we get to the extraterrestrial factor?
Man, that's a tough question for me. I would be astonished if it was from this planet. And you know, who? and why now? You know, it doesn't make any sense to me. But on the other hand, if it's off planet, we are simply not in control of this agenda. I mean, they're going to come here winning how they want. And if you do the math in the universe, which I'm no mathematician, but I've looked at some of it, the odds are there not being something out there, or they're so remote, it's laughable, in my opinion. It's pathetically laughable. There has to be other life out there, and who's to say? Maybe it's some of it's younger than us, and some of it's maybe far older than we can imagine. And of course, they'll have technology that is too. That's what I think we're seeing. But I'm guessing, just like anyone else. I don't have any special knowledge on that.
Do you think if these these radar data tapes, the evidence behind it, if it were to be made public, would it showcase this phenomenon in a whole different light, besides just kind of, because right now we don't have much hard data, we're just looking at these videos? What would
I absolutely think it would change the world. I mean, there'd be no going back. And I have to just say, and maybe people listening can right now can support me in this, and you guys too. My personal goal right now I don't want fame, I don't want money, none of that. I want to get in front of Congress, because I know for a fact if I get in front of that Congress, I'm going to change hearts and minds, and something's going to be done about this. Because people have been hurt, which goes to the reason why I personally think they're hiding it, and I can elaborate on that if you want me to.
Please.
Yeah, and even astronauts are saying this now. Contact with UAP, very, very often changes the observer. And it can change you physically. It can give you abilities that were long in you, but the synapses in your, and I'm guessing here.
Well, I got to say, we've had our own encounters up close and personal, Bull, with other people there around us. And it is a life-changing event. Something processes in your brain as the phenomenon's happening in front of you. Again, let's take another look at Caroline Corey's film, A Tear in the Sky, and some of the efforts, again, to capture the phenomenon.
What has made mankind is an insatiable curiosity. Insatiable. What is that? Nobody knows. The phenomenon.
Nobody's ever done this as far as I know.
It's a huge amount of work, a huge amount of data and equipment. That has never been done.
Whatever this is more complex than we could ever imagine.
This is a first in the field of ufology.
The variety of devices we're bringing as a team to study the phenomenon covered an entire spectrum of different technologies in real time.
That moment shook me to the core because I knew my life was about to change again.
I think we're going to have like a couple of really, really good spots.
When I hear that you've assembled a team of top scientists using state-of-the-art equipment, I say to myself, it's about time.
This is an unidentified, unclassified new phenomenon.
Wow, Tic Tacs. Navy Tic Tacs.
Maybe.
Caught on our cameras.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Crazy. It isn't crazy, it's crazy. It's crazy.
We can go from body heat to very cold, like about minus 62 Celsius or minus 80 Fahrenheit.
Wow.
We will be transmitting data up to 800 terahertz in frequency. Our highest technology is up around 500 gigahertz.
I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to seeing what you've uncovered.
We're triangulating and converging at 2 points, the same object.
It's fading.
It's gone. It's gone. It's friggin' gone.
Something over, Catalina. We need you up here.
We could be heading towards the biggest "see I told you so" in history.
That's what we need, the smoking gun that'll clinch it. That once and for all will settle the debate. No ifs, ands, or buts. And in the process, rewrite all of human history.
Oh my God, you guys. Is this the wormhole? It's insane.
All right. Yeah. Exciting stuff. Crazy, as Shatner said. We need a smoking gun, as Michio Kaku's saying. And yeah, you guys are trying to triangulate from different locations, 3 different locations, to capture one object, to confirm that what we're looking at is unidentified object. And there was a lot of production behind this. You met up with, I think, Gary Voorhees. He was aboard the USS Princeton, as well as Kevin Day. And there was a lot of, again, some really hanky-panky stuff going on that ship to cover this up. Let me tell you. What surprised you most while out on the field? Because we see that you're up in the airplane, you're all over the place. When you're putting this all together, you're only out there for a week. What if you didn't capture anything? What would you have done with this documentary?
That was exactly my nightmare, actually. You know, I funded this movie, except for a very small part where I had a sponsor. But it was exactly like that. It was like, as much as I do my own CE5 thing, because I believe in that. But this was a scientific film. You know, there was no room for that. It was just like, let's go out and capture measurable things, data. And so that was the objective. So But as we got closer and I realized, wait a minute, this is a huge production. We had so many people on set, so many cameras. The team was huge, 3 locations, never been done this way before. So I didn't have a kind of a reference point, if you will. We were literally the first ones. We didn't know what we were getting into. We had so many problems, Blake, in the beginning. Some of the equipment didn't work, the software didn't work, took a long time. We had power outages, all sorts of things that could go wrong. So I was asking for just one thing, one compelling, credible thing. And somehow I knew that it was going to be July 14th. I just kind of, I connected with my own higher power, whatever that is. And I just went in and said, let's just do this. So we picked the week of July 12th to the 16th. And sure enough, on the 14th, we had the first sighting. And so because nobody believed in the CE5 or anything like that or consciousness, we were dealing with hardcore scientists, which was good for this type of film because we wanted it to be very scientific. And so I was kind of on my own. I would be in my hotel room, going, okay, guys, come on, show up, do something. And it was just faith. We kept getting more and more and more. And it wasn't just any sightings. We got things that are similar to the Tic Tacs, which was insane. We had things falling down, raining down in the water. And at the end, that big thing that looked like an opening in the sky. I mean, I was beyond thrilled.
It's interesting because you never know until you just kind of dive in deep and just, not sure when you're going to land. And then there you go, you kind of stick it. What's interesting is because we were recently out on an expedition with Dr. Greer in Arizona, and we're hanging out till 3 a.m, 7 days in a row in, 30-degree weather. It was quite painful to be out there, but there's this thing that I think we're around with 31 people, and there was this kind of effort to communicate. So there's a little bit of this effort to try and make contact. Was there any effort of CE5? It sounds like maybe you're doing it a little bit yourself, kind of behind the scenes.
Totally, I was. Yeah, I was on my own because nobody wanted to do it. Nobody was into it. And also, it's okay because that wasn't really the angle of the film, Sure. So the angle was, we've seen CE5. Let's just see if, we can have those measurable data points. And so on my own, because I do my own meditation, I've been doing this a long time. And I know this works. I mean, I know, Blake, that it works, but I even had a sighting recently where I was outside. I mean, just before the film is what I mean. And I was at my house and I just went outside, and all of a sudden there's these 3 balls of light kind of bouncing off of each other. And so my instinct was like, okay, well, if there's an intelligence behind it, I started kind of communicating and connecting. And I said, well, if you are what I think you are, then do something else. So all of a sudden, the 3 spheres split into 4, then 6, then 8. So I said, okay, that's kind of cool. What else? And so I started walking in one direction about half a mile outside my house. And I said, if you can hear me, then follow me. And I swear, they were just like hovering above me like this for half a mile. Then I change direction. I go in another direction. They're hovering above me. So, I mean, I know this stuff is real. This stuff works. And the funny thing is, I see a neighbor outside and she's walking her dog, right? So I said, hey, do you see these lights right above us? And she says, oh yeah, that's interesting. And then she goes about walking her dog like nothing. And it's so interesting, how people's reaction to the phenomenon and what they expect, what they think it is, it just doesn't register, But so because of those types of experiences that I've had, I'm convinced that there is communication, there is connection. So I did my homework at night in my hotel room, before the shoot. Like, just show me something, give me something, you guys. I'm, counting on you.
So yeah, there's a little bit of kind of an attempt to communicate via our thought process. Kevin, I'm curious to know, in regards to the phenomenon, when during this happening on the USS Princeton, were you thinking about UFOs or extraterrestrial life prior to this? And since that event, have you had any other like paranormal experiences afterwards? Any sightings yourself?
The short answer is no and no. I mean, and one of the odd things about when this happened and when we started tracking these things is I was a senior chief, and that was my very last day underway on the ship. I was getting ready to transfer and work for the admiral for a couple of years, and I retired. But that was my last time on the ship, and also one of my very last watches on the ship, and it was my last intercept out of hundreds in my logbook. I have literally hundreds of intercepts, wartime and peacetime, in my logbook. This was my last one. So I mean, it was bizarre. I've never encountered anything like this ever. And I had years and years and years behind that radar, hundreds of intercepts in my logbook, but nothing like this.
When you talk about the Congress and how you were thinking, well, you're saying I would like to go on Congress. What was what's your thought process of the recent hearings in Congress? Was when you heard the witnesses talk in the Congress questions to the witnesses?
Well, I think it's a move in the right direction, and they need to hold more of them, in my opinion, and they need to invite more witnesses. Michael W. Hall, he's an attorney at UAPX or nonprofit, and he's represented me, and he has sent a letter to the Congress, letting them know that I'm willing to testify. All I have to do is let me know, and I'll be there. I'll be there with bells on. It's my highest goal. That's what I want.
Yeah, I think there's a few people that need to be, asked questions under oath in Congress, and we're going to get some real answers there. And it seemed like the people that were in charge, these new guys in the UAP office, really didn't do their background check. They didn't even know about the Maelstrom incident, among it, a lot of other things. It seemed like they were pretty vague on what they're actually going to do. But now NASA has said they're going to get into the hunt for UFOs, and we'll see what's going to go down with that. We've got a lot of footage right here on our channel from NASA over the years of indicating exactly what the phenomenon is. Again, I know, Caroline, this undertaking to capture the phenomenon was probably hectic during that week, and you had so many people on set at that beautiful house over there. And let's just take another look at Terror in the Sky. It's available right now on Amazon and all streaming services. We're going to be supplying the link in the description, and I urge you guys to watch it. It's interesting to go out there and trying to capture the phenomenon. It's an effort. So guys, take a look at this.
There seems to be an oddity about them because of people report that they pulsate. And my theory is that there must be some sort of information or data.
So what if a UAP is off in the distance and it's modulating its brightness, changing its brightness with information pattern? They're communicating with us, right?
That's the
and when you
theory I
convert
have.
that to sound, our brains and our ears and various computer algorithms could find a pattern in that.
That's correct. We can also take that sound that we receive and put it right back on the transmitter.
And send it right back to it.
Right back to them. So if they're sending out data we don't understand, we can say, here you go.
Well, see, and that's the first protocol in any communication is you say, hello, world. If you hear hello, world, you say hello, world right back to them.
Hey, Michael, go ahead.
So as we're watching this, it's interesting to note that you have the guy from he's Skinwalker Ranch. What's the gentleman's name there?
Travis Taylor.
Yeah, Travis. Good Good old Travis. So what did he bring to the table? Was he bringing some equipment over, or just some of his background and expertise as he does in his, I guess, TV show, the Skinwalker Ranch?
It was more his expertise. David Mason, actually, the gentleman who's talking to him, he's the one who owned pretty much all the equipment that's there. There's only a couple of other pieces that we owned, but he pretty much supplied hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, which was incredible. So because we had optic, regular cameras, we had night vision, we had the FLIRs. The FLIRs, you know, each FLIR is like $50,000, and we had 8 of those. And the idea was to try to find correlations across the spectrum of physics. So we had spectrum analyzers, RF detectors, magnetometers, I mean, the whole thing. And so I, you know, as a filmmaker, I'm trying to present the material, all these devices in a creative way, right? And so Travis is a friend of mine, and because they do a lot of that on Skinwalker Ranch. The focus is not just UAPs, but the idea is kind of similar. He knows a lot about this type of technology. So I thought I would invite him to kind of comment on the setup that we had from a device perspective. And he was actually quite impressed. First of all, the amount that we have was crazy. And also we had technology that are original inventions that David Mason had provided. In the film, we only talk about a couple, but that was, you know, another layer of the types of devices that we brought along. So having Travis Taylor, who's used to this type of technology, for him to come in and check it out and be impressed, I thought was important.
You were collaborating with a lot of people in the field. It wasn't just based on one person. You wanted to bring in all avenues of it. And if there was something to debunk, you guys tried to debunk it as well. Again, let's take a look at some more of a terror in the sky.
Dave and I both got it on tape from our night vision photography.
Different angles, same object.
All right, I need to know bearing, elevation, which way is it going?
300 degrees northwest is where it finally appeared in front of us, to about
29 degrees northeast and disappeared
in the clouds towards the mainland where you guys are.
Recently, the major media, they've been doing it for a few years now, calling it a threat. These things are, we don't know what they are. There's nothing in our assets to possibly do these kind of maneuvers. Again, there's this black budget program. We don't know what the budget is on some of these black budgets, above top secret clearance to even get into this field. But again, Kevin, was there any kind of hostility that you've noticed? There's people saying that we're actually shooting at these things on a daily basis. Were you aware of any kind of engagement, military via any kind of strike against these unknown objects? And do you think, again, have you seen any hostility from these unknown objects?
That's a no and no. When we intercepted these things, there was no hostilities, zero. And as far as I know, there never has been. I mean, if they wanted to be hostile, they would have done it by now, you know, but I don't think they're into that. They would have done it already.
It seems to me that there's this kind of like militarized buildup to protect ourselves against the unknown, and the great industrial military complex might be in play here. And I appreciate you saying that, Kevin, because there's a lot of people out there that want to continuously continue the theory that these are threat over in nature towards us. Again, we haven't seen any evidence of that. I agree. Let's take another look at a terror in the sky. I want to thank Caroline Corey for sharing this with us right here at Third Phase of Moon. Guys, watch this.
If you have something anomalous in different devices at the same time, that reduces the probability. This is why, for example, I've never bought in to the claims that the Nimitz encounter, that was just, the radar didn't work. So then the pilot's eyes were also deceiving them. At the exact same time, the radar wasn't working properly. And the radar wasn't working properly at the exact same time the FLIR cameras wasn't. It's just so absurd to claim that multiple devices and multiple different imaging modalities were all conveniently malfunctioning at the same time, telling you the same thing. That is absolutely insane.
And wow, interesting to know. Kevin, was there any malfunctions, glitches with this radar that you were working on? And again, if it was a malfunction, why would they come in there and swoop the data right away and keep it secret from everybody? Have you ever experienced any kind of malfunctions with your radar, glitch anomalies?
Oh, certainly. In the past, it's happened, but in this case, there was the radar was working perfectly. Yep, and we recorded what we recorded.
Caroline, you actually at the very end of this film, I'm not going to give too much away, but there was some kind of a phenomenon, as you call it, like a terror in the sky. Can you explain to me what your thought process is? Your thought process is what you think was actually captured. What was the consensus by the other team members as well?
Yeah, so what happened is that we were collecting hundreds of hours of data. And, I just, as a side note, Blake, just realize that we were there for 5 days. 5 days. And we ended up collecting not only the anomalies that you see in the film, but hundreds of hours of additional data that we're still going through. So my point being, if we are civilians, going out there for 5 days and we have on camera all sorts of anomalies, such as, the ones everyone will see, just imagine what the government must have. They have the satellites, they have the radars, they have all sorts of things pointing at the sky all day long. So I know that there must be a ton of data that they have and they're going through, and why they're not sharing is a different conversation. But to answer your question, so we went from expecting and hoping for one compelling piece of evidence, and what we were trying to prove, it was that the phenomenon is real and these are actual anomalies. We are not there. We didn't say it's ours versus theirs, it's extraterrestrial. This is a separate point of view that I'm happy to talk about. But right now, the film's objective was to prove scientifically that when you capture an object from different angles, when you have correlation across multiple devices, with all sorts of data points at the same time about the one event, that becomes a scientific validation of the anomaly. Therefore, you can say it's 100% anomalous scientifically. So that's what we did in the film. So we picked the few examples that we came to the conclusion that they were 100% anomalous. So, for example, we had things zigzagging, we had things appear, disappear. We had objects where, it would appear in the frame, rotate, you would literally see the shape of a craft, and then it would disappear, or that it would register cold. All of these are very anomalous. Put it all together, and it starts to, build a case, an important case. So by the time we got to the last finding, which is what you were referring to, the tear, it's literally a tear. What happened was it was an opening and closing of some sort, and there were objects, literally reflective objects that popped out of this opening and closing. So again, I'm glad we had hardcore scientists on the team, because the first thing they do is debunk themselves. They want to make sure it's not the first thing we look at, camera glitch. Is it a camera glitch? Is it a malfunction in some other device? Is this a bird? Is this a plane? Is this this? Is this that? Nothing's checking out. We're even looking, we're checking with, NASA and Fermi and LIGO and all sorts of organizations for some sort of explanation. Maybe it's a solar flare or some sort of, because we had a massive gamma ray burst exactly at that time. Nothing's checking out. And I, even past the film, I've been talking to other scientists and telling them, what do you think this is? Even if it's a weather anomaly that we don't know about, it's still an anomaly. Do you see what I mean? So we are still at a point where we don't know what it is, but because it opens and closes, and because there are actual reflective objects, the radar picks up on objects, not on radiation, not on light. It picks up on object. Because there are these objects that the scientists were able to measure, actually, we're calling it, wormhole-like, of some sort. Is it some sort of portal? And I just like to use the term a tear, because it's some sort of opening. And, we're still going through more and more analysis, but it certainly looks very, very compelling.
Absolutely. Again, there's not many answers to exactly what you're capturing, but you're capturing something. There's no manipulation. You guys were out there for 5 days. Could you imagine if this was an ongoing basis? Again, here, let's take another quick look at Terror in the Sky, guys.
Another interesting fact about this is that this particular camera was aimed at a 45-degree angle toward Catalina Island.
So it could conceivably be
The same object. Yep, because they're triangulating from their perspective, and then we're triangulating and converging at 2 points.
So what's next, guys? Are you going to do a follow-up to Terror in the Sky and continue this with the UAPX crew? Who knows? Maybe we could participate in helping this hunt.
Well, so because of the discoveries, we basically, like I said, showed on camera in real time, with the scientific analysis, that these are in fact anomalies. Of course, there's going to be a follow-up. So, except that because this was the first time and it was so difficult to go through and to put together, we learned so much. So now the next one is going to be a lot more, the type of equipment we're going to use, how we're going to use it. Also going through the data. I mean, because we were running the equipment 24/7. So it's hundreds of hours and terabytes of data. So all of this, we now know how to manage and how to be better prepared. So we're definitely, I have a whole series actually planned on how to move forward. In terms of the team, we actually the team is all spread out right now. So in the future, we may be putting new teams together from scratch to go to the different expeditions. So we'll be working with different people moving forward.
Well, it's exciting times. What's going on right now? The topic, it's hot. People are talking about what's in our skies more than ever now, and we need as many of these independent researchers as we can to focus laser-eyed on this topic and get this information out. And then I know, Kevin, again, you've been through a lot, and there's been a struggle to get this information out, and I could feel your pain when you're seeing this, and then there's a cover-up and you're being ridiculed. But man, I wish you the best. You should get up on Congress and testify, because these are the real people behind it. And unfortunately, our last hearing in Congress really didn't amount to much. Kevin, appreciate you joining us, man, and keep up the good fight.
My honor to be here with you guys. And I personally believe there will be more hearings. They're just getting off center, dead center with it, and I don't believe they're done. I really don't.
Nope. Thanks so much, Kevin. You be safe. And Caroline, Corey, appreciate you sending us these clips, coming on and setting up this interview right here at Third Phase Moon. And let's keep in touch. We got emails, we got everybody's contact, so maybe we could follow up on as the breaking news continues. It's all liquid right now. Everything's full steam ahead, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much for having us. I so appreciate it.
Full steam
All right,
ahead.
guys. Absolutely. You know, what a great time with these two. And I appreciate Caroline's work, and I appreciate the honesty and the bravery of Kevin Day. Thanks for your service as well. If you guys want to follow up, take a look at A Terror in the Sky. The link is in the description. It's available on all streaming platforms, Amazon Prime, iTunes. We're going to supply the Genius link. Everybody, be safe and keep your eyes on the skies. Blake Cousins, we'll see you next time.